one of the most powerful testaments in driving online payment adoption and modernizing was the impact it had on their CSR call times and being able to reduce that 20 to 30%. And then secondly, that decrease in utility shutoffs.
From Tyler Technologies, this is the Tyler Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Henderson. Today's episode looks at how digital payments are evolving in the public sector and what agencies can do to modernize payment experiences without adding complexity for staff or residents. As expectations around convenience, security, and flexibility continue to rise, governments are rethinking how they deliver payment services across channels, systems, and departments. Recorded live at Tyler Connect 2026 in Las Vegas, my guests are Morgan Jines, VP of Payments at Tyler, and Thomas Yarbrough, Manager of Payment Adoption and Growth here at Tyler. Together, they work closely with public sector agencies to help expand digital payment adoption, improve operational efficiency, and create more unified, secure, and user-friendly payment experiences for residents. In this conversation, we explore where organizations are today in their digital payment journey, what's driving or slowing adoption, and how agencies can take practical steps to improve both resident experience and internal efficiency. There's a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. Morgan and Thomas, welcome to the Tyler Tech Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you both here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
for having us.
Yeah. Now, to start things off, when you look across the organizations you work with, where are most agencies today when it comes to digital payment adoption, and what are some of the biggest challenges that they're trying to solve?
Yeah, perfect timing. We see a lot of different challenges, and I think one things that is unique about payments and government specifically with adoption is the use cases are all over the board. Our clients are all different sizes, right? And so the challenges really vary based upon that specific demographic, what currently payment channels that they're accepting and having, and then ultimately where do they want to go. So we'll see challenges in terms of online pay, but maybe there's high adoption with IVR text to pay. Or maybe there's, we see a lot of success with the underbank when we're offering certain prepaid cards. But then when you look at other payment channels related to in-person and cashiering, that's harder to do away with. And so I think some of the challenges is just trying to really identify what are the current barriers for why they're not accepting online payments and adoption, and then providing awareness. So awareness is hard to change people's habits. And so provided that overall awareness of availability and optionality is super important. And I would say another challenge is just technology and, the change being hard for adaptation. And so if that's where the demographics comes into play, right? There's certain demographics that Apple Pay, Tap to Pay is more common and prevalent. And if it's not an easy option for them, then they moved another direction, right? And so having that simplicity and technology is another barrier that we see and we try to overcome.
And there's also just what you've been doing forever, right? And just changing that behavior and adjusting to a new behavior that's easier and having that good experience out front and being able to repeat that experience, because one negative experience can put you back a little ways, but making sure that's positive when you walk in right at the front door, you're liable to come back.
Yeah. I think that's a really great place to start. And now a big part of this is encouraging residents to actually use digital payment options. What are some of the most effective strategies you've seen for increasing awareness and driving that adoption?
Yeah, from the awareness perspective, it's touching residents at every interaction point. And so whether that's their website and having updated verbiage for them to be able to see the availability to make an online payment or to set up account, enable self-service, that awareness is critical. Certainly when it comes to direct mailers and flyers, that's another way that we can engage with residents. If they're calling in for something completely unrelated and they're already on the phone with a CSR, providing that awareness, Also, we have these online payment channels that are available. There's a self-service component, right? There's a reduction in shutoffs that happen. And so I think just from awareness perspective, it's ensuring that we're touching every resident interaction point and providing that awareness and transparency.
And to build off of that, it's the repetition. So you see it in different places, and it shows the intention behind it to say hey, we're putting this up front. We believe in this and we want you to use it. And so they see it in different places.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Now, beyond the awareness, though, how does communication and outreach play a role in influencing behavior and encouraging people to make that shift to digital?
So a couple ways, first off, getting them where they're at, right? So a lot of times it's in a bill presentment or a place where they're already going to be going to understand how they need to interact with the agency they're working with, right? Mm-hmm. So we get that in front of them where they're already expecting to go to get information. or to handle the business they're going to handle anyway. But we want to make sure that information's up front, how to make that payment, how to take those payments and what's available to them right up front, and not making them search for it. That's one thing that we'll find is if you got to go looking for it, if it's more than like 3 clicks, it's vital that you're not going to go somewhere else. So making sure it's up there and it's available and accessible.
Yeah, and I think too, with the accessibility piece, right? Once they go through that initial pain, if you will, right, of signing up for an online account and being able to self-serve, you set it and forget it, right? So auto pay. I mean, these are government agencies, whether it's utilities or taxes, these are required payments. And so a lot of times just being able to have that go through that initial step of creating that account and setting up, a recurring ACH or with whichever preferred card that you have, it's an afterthought. And so we'll see when we're running these adoption campaigns, it's very rare that we abandon or lose somebody that has signed up for auto pay, right? This is something when they're in that residence, whether it's utilities, as that example, if that family's still living there, unless they have a new card that they want to add to their account, this is a recurring payment. They have to have it established. And so they just don't think about it again, right? And so once we provide that awareness and get them enrolled, their lives are easier, and certainly the staff's is, because they're not handling manual cash or checks and having to go through that administrative burden.
Yeah. And carrying over to the operational side with that ease of use, how does increasing digital payment adoption improve efficiency for staff, within agencies and reduce manual processes there?
Yeah, one specific case study that resonates with me that we have on is the city of Antioch, California. We did a great case study on them specifically. And one of the most powerful testaments in driving online payment adoption and modernizing was the impact it had on their CSR call times and being able to reduce that 20 to 30%. And then secondly, that decrease in utility shutoffs. And so at the end of the month, having staff to have to go shut off services and being able to decrease that by 50% by having an online payment option and other ways for people to pay was huge. And so you have staff not having to be out in the fields and turn off services. And then once payment is made, having to go back out into the field and turn on services. And then I always think too about the resident experience. You have a family that didn't have services that they needed on. And so there's so many downstream impacts operationally, even down to the resident. They're just super critical. And we have a path forward to solve with online payments.
And it could be, depending on what type of agency and what type of payments they're accepting, there's like different pieces that are specific for them, right? So like in a utility billing or a regular billing thing, there's usually an entire process monthly that can be very time consuming, multiple days for multiple staff members to go through things that are manual, like opening up checks, scanning through. Never get me started on check scanners. They're never working when you want them to, and they're always working when they're not. But all that correction that you have to do that's manual, removing that altogether, letting it happen through a digital environment, and then just processing it and doing your reconciliation.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of the Tyler Tech Podcast.
Hey, podcast listeners, City Hall Selfie Day is right around the corner.
Mark your calendars for Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, and join us in celebrating public service, civic pride, and the everyday heroes who keep our communities running.
Here at Tyler, we're joining in on the fun, spreading the word, and the selfies.
It's simple. Snap a photo in front of your city hall or any government building, get creative, and post it with hashtag City Hall Selfie.
City Hall Selfie Day is for everyone. Town, city, county, library, special district, or even remote workers. So many ways to get involved and support your local government.
August 11th, grab your camera, snap a selfie, and let's celebrate local government together.
Now let's get back to the Tyler Tech Podcast.
Now, another important piece of this conversation is this idea of a more unified payment experience, right? We try to encourage folks to unify systems, just generally speaking, but what does it mean to have a unified payment platform, and how does that change things for both residents and for internal teams?
Yeah, I think for the resident experience, right, they're not having to have multiple logins. They don't have to have separate accounts for different types of payments that they're taking. They're not having to go to a portal for their taxes or for their utility bills, right? Like each service is managed through one account. And so just that simplicity and accessibility of having one login, of having multiple cards on file, of being able to manage the account, maybe for a parent or for a child. There's so much self-service simplicity by having that one portal. Then I also think too, from the security perspective, having all of your data in one place, being managed, know that it's backed and PCI compliant by a level 1 provider, super critical to being able to have a unified portal and then not have, as many ancillary systems out there. And then I even think one more thing on the technology side is just the integration, right? Being able to have integration through a single system of record is super powerful. And there's a lot of administrative burden that is taken care of by having that.
Absolutely. To go back to one of your first points to it too, is one of the barriers to entry sometimes is getting the citizen to sign up in the first place, right? But once you've done that, you've got all these pieces behind that one login and that one sign up. They've gone through the hard part, if you will, and now it's easy and simple behind that door. So
yeah, simplified. Absolutely. So, but then for organizations who may be operating across multiple systems or departments, what are some of the benefits of standardizing that entire experience with payments?
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about the resident experience, which is certainly critical and important, but they have the self-service, they have the efficiencies that they gain, they have the really just to control their account, to be able to download their past history of bills and payments, be able to accept both, whether it's an ACH draft or a card payment, being able to have that flexibility. But I think also on the uniformity side, from back office perspective, anytime we're dealing with financials, there's so much protection and integrity that we need to have with that, and the level of scrutiny and regulations in the payment space in general. And so if you have all of that through one system of record, your reconciliation becomes easier, right? Your financial transparency, you're able to see your deposits and your funds all in one spot. And then, from other key stakeholders, you're able to see that, by department and then ultimately rolled up. And so it just makes that cash flow and predictability so much simpler, and then certainly safer as well.
With a larger organization, it's very easy to get multiple different systems, multiple different admin logins, and to have all of the admin in one place where you can access it one and then manage it all in the same place is so time saving. So many password resets you can get into and all that kind of thing that can be the day-to-day that can get you down. That's all in one place. It's easy to get to.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And now, as agencies continue to modernize, as they continue on their modernization journey, how does improving the payment experience contribute to a more predictable and timely, revenue collection?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that we're focused on at Tyler is, expanding different payment channels. And so when you think about that, if you have your online payments that you're offering today, maybe you're offering cards and ACH, but that's it. You're not offering, text to pay or Apple Pay or these other payment channels. I think as organizations move forward and think about modernization, we're doing the same thing from a payments industry perspective and what's coming. And so once you bring all of those new payment channels and methods into your ecosystem, we've got to make sure that residents know about it. We have to make sure the technology is configured appropriately. And so, I think there's a lot of involvement from both stakeholders that are required to be successful, but it's not just we have the technology now, but how do we get that message out to residents? And then how do we ultimately continue to grow and support all payment channels? And I also think from an adoption perspective, one thing that's so important is to not just focus on a certain time frame, but continually monitor and measure your success at ultimately changing that resident behavior. And to me, that's really part of what we're trying to do here, is just really be trusted advisors and help provide that awareness that this evolves and changes with the industry. And, we're here to support that as you grow.
Absolutely. And then on-time payments, right? So setting things up for autopay and having that situation where it's on a schedule, you can depend on it. We work a lot with utility agencies that have to deal with things like cutoffs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Those are things that are going to cost more overhead. And they're also going to cost the citizen, someone can get themselves in trouble. They end up owing twice as much as they started out owing. So at the same time, getting that when it's supposed to be, avoiding those penalties, avoiding all of the extra overhead that comes with managing that, having it in time, it's fantastic. And we really do try to advertise that for adoption.
Yeah, been a lot of great information shared here today. But for those who are looking to make progress in this area, what are some practical, cost-effective steps that they can take to start increasing adoption without needing maybe a complete overhaul of their systems?
I think there's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, when I think about it in three different buckets. I think of it from an awareness perspective, right? And just making sure that there's website language is updated, provide that awareness. I think about, even in the technology, just enabling reminders that there's an option to enroll in autopay, that they can receive e-bills. And so kind of going back to those resident touch points, just providing that awareness everywhere you can, and certainly ensuring that there's, incentives behind that. Incentives meaning they can set it and forget it, right?
Mhm.
They don't have to worry about shutoffs. And so it provides that more predictability and, to be future forward. And I think probably the last piece is when you think about adopting other payment channels, is there a proactive approach, like at those touch points when customers come in for any other CSR item that they're dealing with, just proactively mentioning it, right? So not an overhaul of anything, rather it's just being more proactive in your strategy to communicate effectively with the residents and meet them where they are.
And our agencies are trusted by all their residents. So their opinions and the way they feel about it and their comfortability with the system matters immensely.
Excellent, excellent. Now, as we wrap things up, just wanted to look ahead a little bit, but how do you see digital payments continuing to evolve in the public sector, and what should organizations be preparing for next?
Yeah, I think from an evolution perspective, we monitor it from a regulatory perspective. Certainly, PCI compliance, security is always top of mind, and so I think when we bring solutions to market, we are focused on what is meaningful to government. And so looking at things such as interchange optimization, looking at discount programs for fees related to credit cards, we're looking at those sorts of things. And then certainly any new mandates that come out related to security and compliance, we're building all of our solutions on that foundation of being the PCI level 1 security provider and making sure that we fit into all the regulatory. So our clients don't have to worry about separate audit checks, so they don't have to worry about going through separate ports, right? That we make sure that their compliance and their adherence to that is very simple and easy. Also focusing on what they want and listening to our clients. And I think, this past year, we've heard Venmo, PayPal more than we've ever heard it. And so making sure that what we're delivering is not necessarily the next shiny thing, but it's what's important to government and our clients. And so we're listening to that and finding the balance of bringing that to the market with what's also backed by, industry regulation.
Absolutely. The new payment channels, I think, is one of the biggest pieces. The other one is we keep seeing this is like legislation keeps changing around payment taking and the way you're able to do it. And to have a partner like Tyler to come in here and keep their finger on that pulse and to be able to be there to help and guide and protect with that can be very helpful. We can avoid like all sorts of stress.
Yeah. I think that's the perfect place to wrap up this conversation. This has been really enlightening. Morgan, Thomas, thank you both so much for sharing your insights and helping break things down for us. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
As we heard today, improving digital payments in the public sector is about more than just adding new payment options. It's about meeting residents where they are, simplifying access, and creating a consistent, secure experience across every interaction point. From increasing awareness and reducing friction in adoption to unifying systems and streamlining back office operations, we heard how thoughtful payment modernization can reduce manual work, improve predictability in revenue collection, and ultimately create a better experience for both staff and residents. If you'd like to learn more about the consultative adoption services discussed in this episode, check out the show notes for additional resources. We'd also love to hear your feedback. Fill out the listener survey linked in the notes or reach out anytime at podcast@tylertech.com. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show so you never miss an episode. For Tyler Technologies, I'm Josh Henderson. Thanks for listening to the Tyler Tech Podcast.